Hello, everybody. I hope you can hear me. I am here live from my house. Sorry, I had a little hiccup. I couldn't figure out how to go live from uh, from YouTube, but I figured it out. Second time's a charm, right? Well, second time, third time's a charm. I'll be a pro by the third time. So I hope whoever's waiting, if anybody's waiting, we have a live chat going on. We're about 30 seconds in. I'm going to welcome everybody into the live chat. Um, this is a safe space, so please um, use self regard to your own feelings. Step away if it's too much. Um, please be respectful, be kind, um, and do unto others as you would want them to be done unto you, right? Um, a, ah, all right. I just sent that off. Welcome, everybody. We are coming to you from my little humble bungalow. I just live in a small little studio in Fresno, but it's my home, and I love my home. So I put up the props this time instead of sitting on the couch, and I thought I would set it up a little bit more professionally in ways. I've got some studio lighting here to make me look pretty. And So I hope you enjoy. Basically, what I'm doing is I'm reading excerpts from chapters, parts. Well, I'm going from intro to the end of my book, and so far we're gonna finish chapter 1 today. I've already had a couple sessions, and um it's gone really well. I've enjoyed the reviews, the comments that people are telling me that I'm doing great and that this is phenomenal and what I'm doing. And basically, I'm just reading my book as if I'm my own audio book. But I really want to go deeper in between the lines in my chapters, kind of give you a little bit more explanation as to the scene, what was going on, who's who, blah blah blah. So we are going to finish chapter 1, whether we like it or not, no matter how long it takes. We are going to finish. If some people are here, hello. You're welcome to check in. Oh, it went from 1 to 3, so we'll just keep going. Let me get a drink of water. Okay, so we're going to start. So where we left off was on page 23 at the subtitle Happy Times. So we're now where my dad has now dated my stepmom, soon to be new mom. And I'm going to put introduce cells. Okay, so my dad and stepmom, soon to be new mom, they are now dating. They've been dating a while. My dad and I are now moved into her house because she had a house. She was all established. Like I said, she made a lot of money. She was in a really good position. And so she had her own little 3-bedroom house and a backyard and garage. I mean, it was a cute little house over on Terrace. There's a picture in the middle of my book of the Terrace house, later on the Harrison house, and the apartment over here off of Gettysburg, actually not too far from me. I could walk there if I wanted to. The Gettysburg apartment where me and my dad were, and that's like my favorite time, him and I. So we're no longer living in that apartment now. Now we've moved into my new stepmom's house and my stepbrother and stepsister. So I'm sharing a room with my stepsister, and we're just starting out here. So let's see. They did it. Did it? Yeah. Okay. So they already got married. I figured so. I figured they would have already got married before they moved in together. They were pretty traditional. So okay. So we're at subchapter Happy Times in chapter 1, page 23. Life continued on with many wonderful moments of vacations to the beach, camping trips, biking through neighborhoods, playing in the backyard, going to school dances, sleepovers, Halloween parties, birthday parties, sports games, and award nights. Being a kid was the best in the 80s. Oh, God, I miss the 80s. Oh, that was such good times in the 80s. The fashion, the music, everything. It was just really rad times. Uh, excuse me. We were also allowed to stay up till 11 p.m. when Michael Jackson's video Thriller came out. It was a movie like video, the first of its kind. And we were all so excited that night, sitting with our popcorn and blankets in front of the TV, able to watch this epic movie video. And it was an amazing, epic movie video for its time. Michael Jackson Thriller. Back then, we played outside. We did. We weren't on our phones. We didn't even have cell phones. We had a house phone, one. And so we were playing outside, just like kids should be doing. Anyways, back then we played outside and we didn't have video games until much later. My sister and I also had banana bikes. And what banana bikes are is they got like kind of like a low seat. They got like high handlebars, and the seat kind of looks like a banana. But they come in all kinds of colors. So like mine was yellow, and I think Jamie's was blue. Yeah, yeah. My sister and I also had banana bikes. Hers was blue, named Midnight, and mine was yellow, named Sunshine. We rode them all over the neighborhood. In fact, we each had best friends who were also sisters, Milani and Miley. Me and my best friend, Milani, were in the same grade. While my sister and her best friend, Miley, were also in the same grade, it worked out perfectly fine, and together the four of us got into every kind of trouble. For the next 8 years of grade school, the four of us were like a pack. It was comical because from the front yard of my house growing up, I could yell at the top of my lungs as far as across the busy street to my best friend's house, where she would be upstairs in her house waving at me from a window. I would yell, "Do you want to go bike riding?" And which she would reply, "Yeah, I'm coming over." And that is how we communicated back then. We didn't have cell phones back then, but just a house phone. So it was kind of cool. My house faced, yeah, you'd have to go over there, but it was this house that faced across the street, and then her house, there was a neighborhood, and her house had like a part of the building or her house that went up, and it had a bedroom up there, and there was a window. It was kind of like a tower bedroom. It was really neat. Um, and so at the top of the tower, you could, if she was over there at her house, obviously that's where she lived, she could open her window and yell, "Shy, shy, shy." That's what I used to be named, Shy. And I would be like, "Milani, I'm coming over." And she'd be like, "I'm coming over. You want to go bike ride?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So that's like how we communicated. We didn't have cell phones and be like, blah, 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 text, blah, blah. Yeah, no, no, no. Oh, those were good days. Soon we would ride over, and then off we would go exploring the world. The four of us girls would ride over to where the mansions were and dreamt of someday living in one. So I didn't live in a bad neighborhood. They're cute houses where I lived in. And it's right off of Clinton and Palm. If you know the area, Clinton and Palm, then there's Terrace. So then over across, so east of Shields. Yeah, Clinton. No, it'd be no. I was on Shields in Clinton first. And then if you cross over Shields, that's where Milani lived. And then if you go further towards Palm, that's where the mansions were. That's where it starts to get really nice houses. And then you go to Van Ness Avenue, and that's where really nice houses are. So we would always ride over to where these big old mansions were, and they were mansions to us because our houses were small. I mean, they were big. And so we would ride around and we would just dream and have fun, and just because the neighborhoods were so clean and the trees and everything was so pretty and the houses were so cool. Um, so Soon she would ride over, and then off we would go exploring. On the intersection of Harrison and Terrace sat 4 mansions, and we would each pick one. We would do circles on our bikes around the intersection, sharing our stories of what our lives would be like in our own mansion. So there was 4 on this one corner, and there was um, a big white house. Then there was like this beautiful gray house. And then there was this other white house. And then there was this really beautiful brick house. So it wasn't all on 4 corners, I guess. It was like 1, 2, and then 1, 2. Um, but anyways, we would just pretend that we lived, and we claimed the houses. Like, that's mine and that's mine. My sister picked hers and I picked mine. And we just pretended. Um, So we would do circles on our bikes around the intersection, sharing our stories of what our lives would be like in our own mansion. Laughing and giggling, we would then ride back home. All 4 of us practically lived in 3 places: our place, their place, or on our bikes. Summers were our favorite moments, as we almost had 3 months of summer. We really did. We would get out, I think, in like early June, July, August. And I don't think we'd go back to like till September. They've shortened summer a lot. Uh, we would have almost 3 months of summer break and break back then, and lots of time to have fun. My family always did at least one trip, most likely 2 a year. My sister and I would also spend a week with my father's mother, our grandma Jay, in San Jose, California. She would spoil us so much. Yes, she did. Oh my goodness. Vacations and family time were important to my father, as well as traditions. During his childhood, he was taken to the beach every year and wanted to carry on this tradition with his own family. Therefore, we went to Pismo Beach, California for a week every summer. And we always also went camping at Dinky Creek, California for a week every summer. So we'd go to the beach for a week, and then we'd go camping for a week at Dinky. Uh, For the beach, my father had a Chevy Blazer with an option of having a hamburger strapped on top for extra storage at the time. So back in the day, I don't even know if they still call them a hamburger, but it's this big plastic storage container that you strap on the top of your car, and it was called a hamburger. And in it, you would stuff all your supplies in there, right? All your luggage, everything. And it was this secure um, storage space to have on top of your car. And I think it was called the hamburger. That is what they called it back then. And it was packed to the brim. We all stuffed ourselves in the car with me in the middle, of course. I always got stuck in the middle. I hated that. That's probably why I like windows now. I'll bet you that's probably why I like windows seats. I don't like being in the middle. That's actually funny. I just realized that. That's probably where it comes from. I was always stuck in the middle. Let's see. Of course, in the back seat with my siblings on either side of me. My mother would make little gift bags for each of us kids to play with along the way. We would then play games like Mad Libs, where you would make up funny stories by filling in the blanks with nouns, verbs, and adjectives. Then we would laugh when it was all read out loud. So it would make like this really funny story that didn't make sense, but it was hilarious. When we would start to get close, we would start to smell the ocean breeze and hear the waves. So those little goodie bags, like my stepmom would make like these little plastic bags, and she would put toys in there, games, reading stuff, maybe a book, pens, whatever she thought we could occupy us, right, for about 3 hours. Um, so we would ask our father, "Are we there yet?" And he would say, "We get closer as the wheel turns." I would love that. As Let's see, as we got into Pismo, we would yell out, "There's the laundromat!" As we got That was the inside family joke because it was our spot to do laundry for many years while we played. While we, God, I cannot read today. I'm so sorry. Today was Ah, that was an inside family joke because it was our spot to do laundry for many years while we first stayed at the Surf Motel, and it was our marker point that meant we had arrived. So we first stayed at the Surf Motel, which was a nice hotel. But we later stayed in some others. But the Surf Motel didn't have a laundromat, so we would walk or drive down to the laundromat, do our laundry, because we stayed there for a week. And so the laundromat was always kind of like a marker, because when you're coming into Pismo and you're on, I think it's Ocean Ave, I'm not sure, I think, and then you get into Pismo, and then there's the laundromat, and then it's like the Surf Motel is just right down the street. So we're like, we're here. We would all then pile out with excitement. I just wanted to run to the sand. All of us kids were brought up with manners, chores, and the duty to help each other. Therefore, we would all help unpack the car and help my parents get everything settled inside the hotel room. Only then could we go play. So we all had to help out and get situated, and then go play. My parents usually got the biggest room with the best ocean view. It always had a full kitchen, a couple of bathrooms, a couple of bedrooms, a bathroom, and of course an excellent view. They would get the one of the corner units that were family rooms, and it would have just the best view. The hotel had an indoor pool, which was really cool, with a slide. It had a slide. That was like our reason for going to surf. And they still have that pool, that inside pool. I'm not sure if they still have the slide though. The hotel had an indoor pool with a slide where we would spend every moment we were not at the beach. We would spend it at the pool. During our week-long stay in Pismo, we would barbecue some nights. But most nights we went out. I loved going out to restaurants. We always went out to restaurants. It's probably where I get that from too. McClintock's, Brad's, and Alex's were just a few to name. So McClintock's is a very famous restaurant in Pismo. It has really good steaks and really good food, and they have all these pictures of everybody that's taken their birthday there. And there's a Polaroid. I think they still use a Polaroid. I don't know. But there are Polaroid pictures all along the walls. And like my dad celebrated his birthday there, and his picture's up there. Oh my God, I should try to find it. He did. I think his picture's up there. Oh. And then Brad's was a restaurant that was right down the street on Pismo, like the main strip, um, on the pier. Brad's was another really cool restaurant that had an outside patio. Um, and then Alex's was just kind of down the road. Um, and it was a barbecue place, really good, juicy, yummy barbecue. Like, yeah. And it has a big sign that says Alex's Barbecue. You can't miss it when you go in there, when you go into Pismo. So those were like our favorites. We would always go to Splash. Splash Cafe is another one. I forgot to mention that one. Splash was a fish, clam chowder, fish and chips. That was also a really popular one. Um, Over the years, as my parents grew in their jobs, they were able to afford the condominiums across the street. From then on, we started staying for a week in this beautiful 3-story condo with an ocean view. It was supreme, and they're still there, and they are like the most beautiful ocean view condos, and they're really cool. They're stacked up, so you go in on like the middle floor, then there's like like not a basement, but like a, I don't know, like a bottom third floor, and then you could go up to the top deck. So we felt like we were in royal heaven. The main floor had a kitchen, bedrooms, and bathroom. The staircase led you downstairs to the living room with a TV and deck that overlooked the ocean with access to the beach. There was another staircase outside that went up to the third level upstairs, where another higher deck allowed for better views and sunbathing. I remember swimming alone in the pool once, and I accidentally dove directly into the shallow end. My neck almost snapped in half at the base of my neck, and all of a sudden, tingles came over my entire body. I knew what was happening, so I made my way up to the step very slowly. All my limbs tingled, and eventually it went away. That scared me so bad. It scared me, and I realized how close I came to being paralyzed at that moment. Again, I got out of the pool slowly and went back home to the condo to lay down, thanking God that I could still walk. I never told anyone about that incident. Yeah, so that was crazy. I was swimming in the pool all by myself. There was nobody there. And I don't know why, but the shallow end, I guess I thought it was deeper, but I dove straight, almost straight into that sucker. I mean, and I hit my head so hard, and I literally, I really was scared to death that I was going to be paralyzed. Um, it it scared the crap out of me. Like I said, my limbs were tingling. I was like very weak. Like, I am so surprised I did not break my neck and be paralyzed. Like, angels have been watching over me from day one. Very crazy. I've had a lot of close calls with death. Let me tell you, I've had a lot of close calls with death. And as you listen and you follow along and read my book, um, it's pretty crazy. So I am so grateful to be here sharing my story with you and uh, having another chance. Okay. So, and I never told anyone about that. I don't know why. I guess I was just, I don't know. Maybe I told them, but I played it off as it wasn't as serious. I don't know. I don't remember, but I was really scared. Um, my sister and I would often chase boys when we weren't surfing with our father. Oh my God, we thought every blonde hair surfer guy was just like the hottest thing. And we would go into these surf shops, and because we boogie boarded and we needed like wax, but there were also cute clothes in there and stuff and stickers and but the boys, oh my God, the workers, the employees, they were so hot. They were so my brother would take his Jeep along with his best friend and go to the dunes. So my brother had this Willie's Jeep. My brother and all of his friends all had Jeeps. Actually, my stepmom had a Jeep back in her day. So, anyways, my father was always surfing, tanning, making sandcastles, or cooking. He was always doing something. He loved the water. He loved riding waves. He loved making sandcastles. Oh my gosh. He would make really great sandcastles, and he taught us, and like he was just so much fun. He would play kites and frisbee and just, oh my gosh, we had so much fun. My Okay, so he taught us how to catch waves with the boogie board. He did. He taught me, so what he did was he taught me how to like lean in to the boogie board. So you know, you catch in a wave and then you lay on it and then you steer with your shoulders and you just kind of ride it. Um, I think I tried to stand up once, but I don't know. It was really fun. I love boogie boarding. Um, my mother was the queen, sunbathing, playing in the water, going to the caves and exploring with us. So she just really just relaxed. She didn't stress out, like, because that was her vacation. She had so much stress at work that she really just wanted to be, you know, just relax. And we would go down to the caves because Pismo has these caves when it's not high tide, low tide. And you could go way in there and explore the caves. It's really neat. So she would do all that with us and explore with us. So would my dad. Um, but mainly, she just enjoyed watching her family have a good time together. Soon the week would end, the vacation would be over, and we would go back home. Then, in the next month of summer, it was time to go camping at Deaky Creek, California. Oh, one of my favorite places. My parents had to book a campsite early in the year as they got completely booked very early. They always picked the same spot every year, stall 20. It was the perfect paradise hidden in the trees, surrounded by gigantic sequoias, and the crisp smell of pine in the air was mesmerizing. I love the forest. Again, as a family, we would all pile out of the car and help unload everything. The men would set up the tents, gather wood, and start the fire. The girls would get the food, clothes, kitchen essentials, and help my mother set up the campsite. My parents did it all the right way too. Man, we were spoiled. We had so much at that campsite. Like, you wonder where I get it from. I have so much stuff when I go camping. We always had a butane stove, pots and pans, utensils, plates, and a few large ice chests full of food and drinks. My mother also prepared a wash area for us to stay clean. She was always making sure we were clean. We had, you know, a little bucket for our hands and whatnot. We had a bucket for dishes. We had like a tub. Well, not really a tub, but it was like a tub, like a a basin tub, whatever, and she would warm up water and she would bathe us every night with washcloths, or she would have us bathe, whatever, in the tent, of course. And so we'd do that. But she kept us clean. Camping. I know most people are like, you're camping, you should be dirty. It's camping, but like your feet and your areas, they need to be kept clean, especially if you go for a week. You go for a week, yeah, maybe a day or two. You don't need to, but I like to be clean. um, During the day, we would all go to the water slides. So at Deaky Creek, there was these amazing, awesome. Well, I think they're still there. I tried to find them. I'm not sure. I'm sure they're still there. And Honeymoon Pool, yeah. At Deaky Creek, there are natural slides created by the water eroding from the rocks over the years. So the water, just like the Grand Canyon, the water eroded these rocks and made like slippery areas where you could go down. Uh, we would get in black garbage bags, make two holes, one for each leg, and wrap the bag around our waist, making something like a diaper. It would create the perfect amount of friction to slide down fast. So we would get in these garbage bags, tie them around our waist, and it wouldn't scratch us up, and it would make it slipperier. So we were just, instead of scooting on your booty and your skin and your clothes, you get in a garbage bag. That was my dad's idea. That was another one of my dad's idea. She loved living and wanted to share that joy. Wait, where did I go? Oh, sorry. My father always went first as he was just a big kid. He would always go first, but he always went first also to check it out first, and then to catch us if, we got hurt. Then my brother, then us girls. Oh, how fast and fun it was. We would climb out of the water, go up the rocks just to slide down again in seconds, over and over and over and over. We would do this. There was a huge natural pool called the Honeymoon Pool. We would also often go swim there, lying on our backs with the sky above us, redwood trees surrounding us, and eagles flying over our heads. So there was this big natural pool, and it's still there. And it has like kind of like a little bridge where the water is flowing under, but it stays full, and you could swim in there. And then like there's rocks all around it, and it's just and it's surrounded by trees, and it's just really beautiful. Camping provided us with exposure to the natural world as we kids would go for hikes on our own and appreciate nature. One time, all three of us hiked up to a really high point and put us in a bad situation with nowhere to turn back but to keep going. All three of us ended up on a ledge that was very short and with the chances of one of us dying, if not all three of us. So this was a very freaky moment. I don't know how we got up into this area, but we obviously got stuck where we couldn't go back. I don't know why. I don't know why. But like the ledge was like yay thick. Like our feet didn't even fully fit, and we had to lean against this rock, and we had to walk along this ledge, like scoot along this ledge. I don't even know how. And then it was almost like it wasn't sheer, but it was like if we fell, we were going to seriously die or get really, really hurt. So the only way to get through this was to continue on, because you could tell that you could get up on this rock if you just made it across this ledge. And so my brother was like, all anchor, you guys crawl over me. So that's what we did. We kind of like crawled over him. It was so sketchy. It was so, I don't even know how, like, again, another close call with death. My brother went first. He climbed over my sister and me to another flat area so that he could help each of us to the only safe place there were. So I guess he climbed over us. Yeah, he climbed over us, I guess. And then he was over on the rock, and then he helped pull our hand like and get us to safety. That's what it was. That's what it was. Jason went first, and then he helped us get to safety. My sister and I sucked in our tummies and pressed ourselves against the rock as our brother climbed over us and made it to the other side and was safe. God, it was so scary. Then he grabbed each of our hands one at a time and helped us get to safety slowly. It felt like forever, and I was so scared. We all made it to safety and hugged each other, gasping because we had just escaped death for the very first time. Well, my second. Running back to the camp, we shared what had just happened with our parents. It scared my father to death, and his face was ghostly pale because we had all just almost died. Yeah, my dad was he was like, he was in shock a little bit. He didn't even know what to do because I think partly he felt so responsible that he let us go off, and that serious of something almost happened to us. And they would have never known where we were or how to find us, like, because you didn't have phones or anything back then. So, oh, thank you, God. All right. Um, he hugged us all, and of course, my mother lectured us, but we got over it. Then we thanked our lucky stars that night. My parents wanted us to have all, so we did soon, and we had the best camping week. It was such a great week. Soon our week would come to an end, and back home we would go. For several summers after that, while my sister and I were still in grade school, my mother's father, Grandma Jay, would lavish us and spoil us for a week in San Jose and San Francisco. My grandma was an eccentric, lively, and loud person. She loved living and wanted to share that joy of life and the world with my sister and I. So when the time came for my sister and me to visit our grandmother, my parents would drive us to Casa de Fruta to meet her there. It's a famous pit stop restaurant along Highway 152 just before you head up the Pacheco Pass to San Jose. Uh, so uh, Casa de Fruta is this really cool restaurant. They've also got like a sweets building. They've got like a train. It's like sweets and nuts. They got ice cream. Uh, they've got these beautiful uh, peacocks that walk around all over. Like they're beautiful. And they used to have this cup flipper, famous cup flipper that would flip cups on saucers. I'll talk about that. But anyways, I love stopping at Casa de Fruta. It's still there. It's a very famous pit stop. I think you can get gas there. They need to put a hotel. They need to put a hotel. I'm surprised they haven't put a hotel yet. I'm really surprised. They would probably get some stays. There was a man once who would flip cups on its own saucer at your table and then pour coffee into it from a high up. So there was this man, he was called the cup flipper, and he would flip white cups up in the air and land them on the saucer. And then he would pour coffee really high up, and he'd sometimes stand up on a chair, and you'd hold your cup, and he'd make it. It was amazing. It was amazing. So people would stop just to see him. Um, it was awesome. Uh, I never saw him miss once. Yeah, he never missed. He never missed. Yeah, he never missed the cup. Uh, and it was quite a show. It really was. It was quite a show. He passed away, but it was amazing. Um, we would all then enjoy lunch. My grandma Jay always got the chef's salad with extra dressing. She always got extra blue cheese dressing. It's a really good salad, actually. That's I get that a lot. She would douse her salad with dressing. She would. Once lunch was over, my sister and I would jump in the back seat of my grandma's Cadillac. She loved Cadillacs. We loved her car because it had a sunroof, and that's where my addiction to sunroofs comes from. I have to have sunroofs. I've had sunroofs in like 85% of my cars, um, and I have one now. I love sunroofs. Um, my parents would head back to Fresno, and the two of us would go to San Jose with my grandma. We would sing songs and laugh along the way. She she always drank Tab, the diet soda. There was this soda back then that was named Tab, and it was just this diet cola. My sister and I would make jokes about it because it always made her gassy. It would always make her fart. When we got to her home, we would go to our room and get settled. My grandmother's house was built back in the 40s era. It was unique with different levels of flooring into the rooms. It was such a cool house in San Jose. You had to step down You had to step down to enter the dining room, step down to go into the den, step up to go to the living room, step down to go to the bedrooms, etc. It was weird. There was an intercom system in all the rooms, so there was like this speaker box in all the rooms that allowed you to talk to each other through the rooms. Okay. Um, that you could talk to each other in okay, there was an intercom system in all the rooms that you could talk to one another from room to room as well. My grandfather's picture was hung on top of the TV. So my grandfather passed away early on. Early in chapter 1, I talk about how my dad's dad passed away on the golf course suddenly when my dad was like 15, 13, 15. I think it was 15, 16. Um, 15, 16. So hello, whoever's watching. You can say hello in the chat. I believe it's live chat. Um, so welcome. We're just following along in chapter 1. We're going to finish today. Okay. So my grandmother square danced, and in one of her spare bedrooms were all her dresses and shoes. They were gorgeous and were the colors of the entire rainbow. She had all these beautiful, ruffly, fluffy, flowy square dance dresses. They were gorgeous. Her closet was full of more clothes and shoes. Like she had shoes everywhere, boxes of shoes everywhere, matching jewelry, tons of jewelry boxes. Oh my gosh. Um, she had jewelry for miles. She loved hats and scarves. She did. My grandmother was very fashionable and looked her best at all times. She would take us to San Francisco and rent limos with sunroofs. She would rent limos. My grandmother had a lot of money. Then she would take us to Union Square, where all the fancy stores are, and take us shopping to Saks Fifth Avenue, Neiman Marcus, Gucci, and FAO Schwartz. FAO Schwartz is a toy store, which is amazing. I think it's like 3 stories in San Francisco, or 2 stories. I can't remember. Then we would go down the most crooked street in the world, Lombard Street. It's in the world's record as the most crookedest street in the world. And she would also take us to water parks. So also we were in a limo, and it's not a good idea to go in a limo. So we couldn't really go in a limo, but she would take us in her Cadillac down Lombard Street because I don't think you can't make it in a limo. But she would take us in her Cadillac because we were always in San Francisco and San Jose when we visited her. But we would go down Lombard Street in her Cadillac with the sunroof, and we would stand up out the sunroof, and we'd stand up out the sunroof in the limo too. We'd go down Lombard Street. She would also take us to water parks, the Mystery Spot, Winchester Mystery House, Alcatraz, and more. She would make us sandwiches and cut the crusts off and then cut them into triangles for us. It was so good. Those sandwiches were so good. They were so simple. They were just white bread with the crust cut off, a little bit of mayonnaise, a slice of ham, slice of cheese, and that was it. Sometimes there wasn't even cheese, I think, but they were just the best sandwiches. Um, and she would cut the crust off. So cute. When my sister and I went to the water parks, we would eat lunch in her car. We would sit in the open trunk, and my grandma would stand, even if she were sopping wet mess. So she would pop open the trunk. Me and my sister would sit inside the trunk, eat our sandwiches. She'd be standing there. Yes, we rode down the water. Yes, she rode down the water slides and everything too. I remember she would wear a bathing cap. She wore a bathing cap to protect her hair, but it didn't really help much as she still got her hair wet, which we thought was funny. She would look like a drowned rat, and we were like, "Grandma, why do you even bother with the bathing cap?" But that was the proper thing to do. Women in the 50s, 60s, 40s, they wore bathing caps because they couldn't do their hair all the time, and so it was important to keep your hair, not get it wet. We would also roller skate up and down the hills of San Jose. Oh my gosh, these hills were steep too. Then she would take us to visit her brother, who loved pigeons and had a pigeon coop on the rooftop of his building. That's probably where my love of birds came from, because I grew up around birds. But that was the beginning part because the pigeons were really neat. They were up in a coop and they would fly. He would let them out and they would fly, and then they'd come back to the coop. It was amazing. It was really cool. And it was on top of one of the buildings in San Jose. Um, who loved pigeons and had a pigeon coop on the rooftop of his building. So my uncle was a tax guy, tax preparer, whatever, tax guy. So he had his own tax company. So he owned this huge office at the top of this two-story building, and his office allowed access to the roof, which was really cool. You walked in, and his office sat in a loft, and there was all the offices down below, and the people working on taxes, and so that was really neat. Then the week would end, and back to Casa de Fruta we would go to meet our parents. We would have lunch and go back home. We wouldn't be too sad because we knew we would see our Grandma Jay again on Christmas. She spent every Christmas with us and always brought her zest to the holidays. When we weren't all on vacation, my sister and I were usually at my Grandma Elle's house. That was my new mom's parents' house, just down the street from our grade school. So my Grandma Elle was my stepmom's, I say new mom, because she was my new mom. My Grandma Elle was my stepmom's mom. So we had two sets of grandparents. We had my dad's mom, which my Grandma Jay, and then we had my stepmom's parents, my Grandma L, my Grandpa P. I'm not saying last names because that's protected, but I had a grandpa. I didn't have a grandpa on my dad's side, but I had a grandpa on my stepmom's side and a grandma. They were really cool. My brother was always able to stay home as he was a boy and older. So me and my sister always had to stay at my grandparents' house after school. My brother got to go home. My sister and I had to stay at our grandmother's until one of our parents came to pick us up after work because we were younger. When in school, we would walk to her house every day. My sister and I loved staying at our Grandma L's and Grandpa L's, whom we called Poppy. Would sit would sit in his chair. Yeah, he would sit in his chair mostly and watch his shows and soap operas. He couldn't talk or walk much because due to a fire that had happened years prior in that same house. So they lived in the same house where there was a horrible fire, and I'll explain. He ran. So when the fire happened, he ran through black smoke to rescue my grandmother, and in doing so, breathed in so much soot and smoke that it permanently damaged his lungs along with some of his brain function. But he was still so much fun to be around. He would tell jokes, and he would let my sister and I take turns riding on his lap on his electric scooter. We loved it, and he would smile big as we zoomed down the sidewalk. So because my grandfather rescued my grandma because they slept in separate bedrooms, um, the fire was happening. My grandpa woke up. He ran over to her bedroom, rescued her, pulled her out, but he didn't like duck. He walked through the smoke. He didn't duck, and so he breathed in all that heavy smoke. So it damaged his lung and his brain. So he was really unable to walk a lot. My grandma had to shower him and bathe him. He couldn't talk I mean, he talked okay. Um, his face was somewhat paralyzed too. He couldn't smile very well. He could somewhat feed himself, but it was a struggle. So he used a lot of he had an electric recliner, he had like wheelchairs, he had electric scooters, he had a walker. So, my grandma took care of him for the rest of his life. And, but he was such a joy. He was so funny. He would crack jokes, he was emotional too. Sometimes he would cry. Um, but he was really cool. He was fun. And he'd let us ride on his lap on the Moby, that electric scooter outside. We thought it was the funnest thing. And anyways, my sister and I often walked to 7-Eleven to get Slurpees and candy. So 7-Eleven, there's still 7-Elevens now, but there was a 7-Eleven in walking distance from my grandma's house, and she would give us like some money. I think she'd give us like $5 each. And that was a lot to us because we could get candy, Slurpee, hot dog, chili dog, whatever, nachos, all for $5. We would also get chili cheese dogs, corn dogs, and play with our grandmother's very large cat, Simon. Oh, I love Simon. He was this big orange cat. Wonder where I get my love of orange cats, huh? We would play games inside and watch soap operas. My sister and I would watch Young and the Restless, Days of Our Lives, General Hospital, One Life to Live. I think that's it. I still watch General Hospital. I love General Hospital. One time, a Monopoly card went missing, and for the longest time, we couldn't find it. It was so strange. Like this, I think it was one of the purple ones. Baltic Avenue, I think it was. It was missing. For the longest time, we couldn't find it. Until one day it appeared out of thin air. My sister and I were freaked out because we had just seen poltergeist and thought something spooky was happening. It was weird. This card just appeared and it was like it had goop on it. It was weird. It was like, where did this card just come from? We would have sodas and chips till our stomachs started to ache. My grandma had a refrigerator in the garage, so she had a second garage in the. So she had a refrigerator in the garage, a second refrigerator in the garage, full of soda and beer she liked to drink. She eventually ended up quitting later on in life, but she was a spitfire of a lady. She used words like pissant and okie and would often call me a pissant because I always broke her dishes. She didn't hold back in her vocabulary. Yeah, I don't know what it was. I always broke her dishes. And she would call me a pissant. I'd call me worse, but she would also share her stories with us about traveling across the country in a covered wagon. She had the most beautiful garden, and she was asked by Better Homes and Gardens to present it in their magazine. She was very proud of her flowers. They were just a tiny example of how beautiful our grandmother truly was. So, yeah, my grandma was actually born in a covered wagon. She traveled all the way from the East Coast in a covered wagon. She was born in that covered wagon because her mom was pregnant. They traveled all the way from the east and migrated all the way to the west. And there were pictures I wish I could show you. The most coolest pictures of all of her family, all around a covered wagon in the middle of the open space on their journey to the west for better opportunity. So she was very poor, very poor. Um, Growing up, so this is subchapter growing up. Page 32. In 1988, my parents hit the jackpot and moved us into a bigger house. It was a mansion. So they got like raises and they started getting better jobs like in their company, and they started moving up into different levels. And they still stayed, like my stepmom still stayed a senior vice president. My dad still stayed a data processor, but somehow the company, like, they formed forces with other companies and it just grew bigger and bigger and bigger. So they started to make a lot more money. When we did the walkthrough before they officially purchased it, okay, and moved us into a bigger house. It was a mansion. When we did the walkthrough before they officially purchased it, I recalled that it was the exact mansion that I had picked on the day we rode our bikes and dreamt of the mansion we would live in one day. I was shocked. I ran to my sister and told her, Jamie, this is the very house I picked that day. We picked our mansions on our bikes, remember? I don't think she quite grasped the concept as I had, but it made a mark on my life. I felt like a princess entering her castle. So when we were all riding our bikes and picking our mansion, this was earlier on, maybe like a couple years, um, it dawned on me that the very white house that I had picked, that I chose for my house, dreaming, was now actually the house. I was just like, what? What? It was crazy. My parents were approved for the house, and on July 2nd, we all moved in. It was a 2-story, 3-bedroom, 2-bath house with a pool, pond, fire pit, and pool house. It had a garage and a carport, a drive-through, like a covered drive-through, um, as well as a little side room off of the garage. It was huge. It was the hugest house I've ever had. I had ever had then and ever have still. The pool had a waterfall. You could set up so it had like this spout in the middle of the pool in the shallow end because there was like seating around the inside of the pool. It was really nice. And so there was a hole and you could stick a pole in it and then water would shoot out and it would make this beautiful waterfall. It was so cool. Um, it had a basement, so the house had a basement and a secret hideaway spaces. So it had like these secret little nooks. Like there was a nook underneath the stairwell. There was the basement that was all creepy. It looked like Freddy Krueger. Like it did. It was creepy. It was creepy. It looked like Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy Krueger style. It was weird. And there was shelving all in there, and that was where the furnace was all at. And I was always afraid of spiders, and ugh, I didn't ever like going down there. Um, but it was clean. It was like organized. It was clean. It was cemented and it had nice shelving. I mean, I don't know. It was nice, but creepy. It also had a laundry chute from the upstairs to the downstairs. Yes, a laundry chute. The house was old and very beautiful. So upstairs, the bathroom, there was this little cabinet where you could just throw your clothes down, and it went down to the laundry chute at the main floor, and then that's where the washer and dryer were, and you just opened up this little cabinet, pulled out the clothes. It was so cool. Um, my parents, okay, let's see. Okay, upstairs were 3 bedrooms, which meant I now had my very own room. My sister allowed me to pick first, so I picked the largest room. My sister, she picked the room that faced the front street that was hidden behind a beautiful tree that provided shade and had a treehouse feel like to it. So I really liked her room. It had windows that were covered with all these beautiful trees, and you could just look into the branches and feel like you were in like a treehouse kind of. My room was a lot bigger. It had windows also that were really big, but it just was huge. It had like a long 3 door garage closet. I mean, I don't know. I wanted the big room. um, my room was large and had a huge 3 door closet with cabinets on top. It had a view of the backyard and the sky, so that was really cool. I really liked that part. My parents' room was down the hall from my room, and it was grand. Their room was huge. It had windows facing the street and backyard, as well as a walk-in closet. So it had windows on both sides. It had windows facing the street, and then it had windows facing the backyard. It was beautiful. And then it had this huge walk-in closet. Downstairs was a large living room with a fireplace and large windows. Like the house had huge, large windows from like ceiling to floor. A dining room with a chandelier hanging from the ceiling. There were chandeliers, beautiful old chandeliers throughout the house that we decided to keep and restore. Um, my brother picked the study downstairs. So there was this study that was downstairs as well, and we transformed that into his bedroom, which my parents turned it into his bedroom. It had a door access to the outside and then allowed him his own independence. So that was like a study. It had a door that allowed you to just go outside. So he had his own freedom because my brother was 5 years older than me. So he was already like into his kind of prime and needed his independence. So they gave him that room. It was a cool room. Let's see. My brother was 5 years older and was very responsible. He shared his room with his best friend Nathan. Uh, so my family took Nathan into our home after his mother had been killed by a drunk driver. He was like another brother to us and another son to my parents. Nathan had been my brother's best friend since first grade, much like my sister and I developed strong best friends in first grade. So we took Nathan into our house because his father, Nathan came from a very big family. He had like 4 sisters and 2 other brothers. So I think there's like 6 children. So when their mother died, the father wasn't able to really take care of all the children on his own. So we helped out the family and we said, let's just take Nathan in and, we'll take care of him. I think some of his sisters went to other homes as well, um, just to kind of ease the burden on Nathan's father. Because what a tragedy that was. Oh my God, what a tragedy that was. There was the kitchen with a nook and a window that looked out onto the street of the gorgeous neighborhood. The house was colorful inside with gold, blue, purple, pink, brown, and yellow wallpaper all throughout the different rooms of the hallways. So this house was totally retro, back to like the 40s, 50s, where rooms had different colors, shag carpet, all matching the wallpaper. So there was like a blue bathroom with blue shag carpet. The kitchen was yellow with a yellow booth that was like a vinyl yellow booth. There was my parents' bedroom was like gold with wallpaper and this gold, and then the bathroom downstairs was purple. No, the bathroom downstairs was purple with purple shag carpet. The bathroom upstairs was blue with blue shag carpet, blue toilet, blue blue bathtub, like everything. My room was all pink. My sister's room was all brown with this straw like brown wallpaper. So weird. And then all throughout the whole house was green. Green shag carpet. Green shag carpet up the stairs. It was gnarly. It was a cool house. It was a really cool house. Um, okay, where are we? My room was pink. In the backyard, let's see, yellow wallpaper all throughout the different rooms and hallways. My room was pink, like I said. In the backyard was the pool with a diving board, a little pond. There was a little pond with a little waterfall. There was a fire pit, and like the very back behind the garage, there was a fire pit where and it had benches, and it was surrounded by the garden, so you could sit out there and have a fire. Um, and it had two stone benches on each side. There was a pool house. Then there was like this little house that had a sink and a bathroom and a shower. I mean, you could live in there. It had an AC. Um, there was also a pool house with a working bathroom. This new house was where I lived throughout high school and college. This was the Harrison house, and the other house we called was the Terrace house because that was the two streets we lived on growing up. So the Terrace house we lived on Terrace, Harrison house we lived on Harrison. And I have pictures of the houses in my book, in the middle of my book. Um, at the Harrison house, a lot of life and death occurred. We continued. Oh my gosh, we're almost done. Wow. Wow, I'm on time. Woohoo. Okay. La la. At the Harrison house, a lot of life and death occurred. We continued to celebrate. Sorry, I say that because you'll see. The Harrison house is throughout my whole entire life. Um, We continued to celebrate Thanksgiving and Christmas every year. Everyone from my father's side came to visit us still. My grandma Jay, my aunt M and her husband, and of course my uncle Kay and his wife. So my dad's mom, my grandma Jay was still alive. My uncle Ken, his brother, my aunt Marlene, his sister, and then they were both married, so their wives. So they would all come to our house and they would stay because we had the biggest house, we had the most room. Us kids were there. It made more sense. So it was just really neat. Everybody was there all at once, and they would stay for like a couple days. It was a big bash during the holidays. My father would make his famous dressing, also known as stuffing, but we called it dressing. He would spend hours roasting chestnuts and cracking them and peeling them. Then he would put all the ingredients together and bake it for a little over an hour, watching it ever so carefully. So this is the famous Genvey dressing, and this is a tradition that has been passed down to me. I was fortunate to learn it, and I make it every year for myself and for my friends at church and for friends because it's so good. What it is, it's basically you've got like the crouton type breadcrumbs. Then you grill up some sausage, one hot, one mild. Then you chop up celery and onions and you saute that in butter. Then you chop up apples. You put Bell's seasoning. Bell's seasoning is the trick. Bell's is like it's like an allspice, but it's Bell's. It's a little yellow box. It's a little yellow box, and it's the best. A little bit of salt, baking soda, um, pepper. Um, what else? Oh, yeah, celery, onions, apples. Uh, Oh, chestnuts. I'm not a fan of the chestnuts, so I typically leave those out in my recipe, but my dad had to have chestnuts. And I don't mind them, but my dad loved chestnuts. So he would roast the chestnuts in the oven, then he'd bring them out and he'd peel them. They'd be all hot and everything, and he'd peel them and then he'd prepare all of that. So my dad was such a good cook. And I love that dressing. If you ever get a chance to taste my dressing, it is to die for. And it's good for like 5 days after. I'm not kidding. I live on that stuff for like a week after Thanksgiving and Christmas. um, so then he would put all the ingredients together and bake it for a little over an hour. And then what's neat about then you put milk in there. You put milk, and then you get it just the right consistency to where it's nice and moist. And then you put a pan inside another pan, and you put water around it to where it doesn't burn or anything. And that's kind of like the trick too to keeping it really moist and not drying out. Um, my grandma Jay made persimmon pudding with lemon sauce. I never really cared for that. A lot of people love persimmon. I usually I usually washed and helped make the mashed potatoes. That was my favorite. My favorite was the mashed potatoes. Give me the mashed potatoes and I will make the mashed potatoes. Um, we had ham and turkey. My mom would make the best brown gravy. She would make, and I say mom, that's my stepmom. Okay. My birth mom, I will call her either birth mom or Debbie. She's not my mom. So my mom, my stepmom became my mom, and that's who I'm referring to as mom. It's my stepmom. Okay. My mom would make the best brown gravy. The best china was put out with all the servings placed ever so perfectly in their places on each side of the plate. My mom was very decorative and fancy. She knew etiquette like no one I knew. I would watch her set the table, then later learned and took it over. Our table looked royal every year, and my dad would set up the tripod camera. Then all of us would sit around the table with our glasses raised for the camera. The holidays were the best. My father would spend hours outside with the Christmas lights before people arrived, making sure the house looked the best on the block, which it always did. So we had the best china put out, the silverware was placed accordingly. We had nice glasses, the china, because it was their wedding set. I mean, we had the napkins and the little napkin holder, and we had all the beautiful centerpieces and the food, and it was just so, so nice. Um, when Christmas morning came, we would all race to the living room, grabbing our seats on the couch or the floor, just like usual. So, just like as a kid, you know, we were all excited and we would all run down and wake up everybody. Come on, get up, get up, get up. And it never stopped. It never stopped, even until like high school, I think. Yeah. The tree was always piled halfway high with presents. My parents really provided us kids with the best of everything in life. They really did. We had so many presents. They were so generous. Soon all the presents would be unwrapped, and in the foyer lay all the boxes, wrapping paper, and ribbons. It would be so high. Like, so when you entered the house, there was like a little foyer entrance, and there would be like the dining room and then the living room. So we would throw all the boxes, all the wrapping paper, all the tissue paper, all the stuff in the middle of this foyer, and it would pile up. Uh, all the adults would, so it would be so high that we would jump in it like a big pile of leaves. So to smash it all down, they were like, kids, go and jump in it. So we would jump in it and we'd smash it all down and get it all into the bags. But it was fun to jump in it, and there's pictures of all of us covered in all the present or boxes and wrapping paper. All the adults would return to the food, and we kids would play with our toys, games, clothes, or whatever it was that our hearts had requested on our lists to Santa. So that is the end of chapter 2. Or, I'm sorry, chapter 1. Chapter 1. Now we're ready for chapter 2. Oh my goodness, we finished. I thought that was going to take a lot longer. So I don't know who the two people are. I appreciate you being here for the majority of the time. I wish you would say hello. I don't know if maybe I'm not able to, you're not able to, but anyways, thank you for joining me. The next session is going to be September 6th, and we're going to go into chapter 2. Chapter 2 is normal versus chaos. So this is going into where now you're going to start seeing how chaotic my birth mother is. And now you're going to start to see everything that she kind of put me through. And then you're going to see the normal life that my dad gave me, the normal, the school, the structure, the religion, the, chores, the discipline, the love. My birth mother didn't give me any of that. So that's why I termed it normal versus chaos, because I literally lived chaos with my birth mother and then normal with my dad. So I hope you'll join me. Let me see. I think it is the 6th. The 6th is Saturday. Yep. So it's Saturday. It's going to be at 11 a.m. But if you're not able to make it live with me, that's okay. They'll be recorded. So that is it. Thank you again. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for your support, and know that you're loved. You're not alone. Your story matters. We must share our stories so that we can help everybody, make sure that they know that they're not alone. And I just appreciate where I'm at in my life and for this channel and this opportunity to read my book with you all, get a little closer, go between the lines and kind of explain some of the things that might have raised questions and weren't clear. But I did that kind of on purpose. I did that kind of on purpose to leave some things kind of open. So anyways, have a wonderful evening. It's a little bit after an hour. So thank you. Bye.